When it comes to the next generation of video games, the upcoming ninth generation, one of the changes I will be making is that I will not be supporting, in any way, shape, or form, Xbox. I will not be supporting Xbox, quite simply because the last one just so happens to be the worst video game console I have ever used. The Xbox One was a fucking disaster from the moment that console was formally announced all the way through the entire generation. 7 years. This big, ugly, bulky VCR looking thing, or whatever the hell it was supposed to be, from numerous poor decisions by Microsoft, raising the original price of the Xbox One by $100 because they decided to try and shove Kinect down people's throats, to trying to force DRM policies on used games so people don't actually own the games that they buy at retail, to trying to be this all-in-one entertainment hub in people's living rooms by focusing on things that just have nothing to do with video games, like television. Oh, you can use your Xbox as a DVR. It's like, why would I want to do that? It's a video game console. People don't buy an Xbox to watch TV shows. They buy an Xbox to play video games. And ever since the launch of that console, Microsoft has been in this mode of damage control for a very long time. So now, they're making decisions to try and secure the future of Xbox. And some people think that this is the turnaround. This is the redemption of Xbox, with pro-consumer services like Xbox Game Pass and Xbox All Access. And Microsoft, their decision to spend millions of dollars to buy Bethesda and ZeniMax Media. And so they're in control of Bethesda properties such as Fallout, Doom, Wolfenstein, what have you. The thing is, Bethesda, a lot of people love Bethesda games, and I've played good Bethesda games, but most of their games really aren't that great. I mean, alone, if we're talking about the last Wolfenstein and the last Fallout game that was released for those particular franchises, they were a disaster. Both of them. Wolfenstein Youngblood pretty much killed that series single-handedly. I have no idea how they're going to rebound from that, given how terrible that game was. The same goes with Fallout 76. That was also a fucking disaster. And it woke people up to stop accepting mediocrity from a big publisher like Bethesda. Doom is the only property, really the only IP that they've handled properly in recent memory. But that's just one game. Let's say all of Bethesda's games just go completely Xbox exclusive next generation. I'm not buying an Xbox to play more shitty Wolfenstein and more shitty Fallout games. That's just not going to happen. Even if it means passing up on Doom. Again, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, those are fantastic games. But it's just one IP. I can live without Doom, if need be. Not to mention, most of these are going to come to PC anyway, just like the rest of Microsoft's exclusives. And then the thing I don't understand is, they buy Bethesda, but then they're going to honor the PlayStation 5 exclusivity for Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, which are two more games under Bethesda, the Bethesda banner. Clearly the reason for them doing that is they don't want to piss off the fans of PlayStation who don't support Xbox. They don't want to piss them off because that can have negative repercussions on them as a console manufacturer. And, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, this is, Microsoft, they got money, so they spend $7.5 billion to purchase ZeniMax Media and Bethesda along with them. But it's like, this is really just almost a desperate move, because they know they don't have the exclusives to compete with Sony. So what do? They decide to go out and buy one of the industry's biggest publishers. They make a deal with one of the industry's biggest publishers to acquire their licenses, their IP. We don't know for sure what kind of effect this is going to have for Xbox. We don't know if Bethesda's eventually going to make better games that's not a disaster like Fallout 76 and Wolfenstein Youngblood. We won't know the true effect of this decision with Microsoft and Bethesda until at least a few years from now. So I don't consider this to be a win for Xbox. We don't know how this deal's going to turn out right now. We just don't know. Then, looking at the list of launch titles for the Xbox Series X, I scroll down here. You have Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is also going to be available on PS4 and Xbox One and PC. You have Bright Memory, which is going to be available on PC. Dirt 5, you have that, which is going to be available on PC, and I'm sure it's also going to be available on other consoles. You have Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, FIFA 21, Fortnite, Gears 5. Gears 5 is already available on PC. It's already available on Xbox One. Gears Tactics is available on PC. Marvel's Avengers is available on PC, PS4, Xbox One. I mean, all of these games. Watch Dogs Legion, that's going to be available on PS4 and Xbox One and PC. This is their launch lineup for this console. Not a single game here listed is worth going out and spending $500 for this thing. Not a single one. It goes back to that video I made discussing the launch titles for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and how both consoles have very weak launch lineups. It's a problem with Sony too, but this video I'm just focusing on Xbox and what they got going on. I'm just done with Microsoft. They screwed up the Xbox One so much that it's had this long-term negative repercussion with Sony. And yeah, Microsoft, they do have their fans, but they've pretty much invalidated any reason to go out and spend money on a next generation Xbox. They've pretty much made it a pointless waste of time and money to go out and buy an Xbox. And then you have the Series S. Well, what about the Series S? You have the Series S for $300, but it's clearly going to be much less powerful than the Xbox Series X and the PS5. It's basically a waste of money because one of the reasons you buy a video game console is to get a boost in performance and all that. You're not getting much of a boost in performance with the Xbox Series S. So why anyone would spend money on that is beyond me. Xbox has just become irrelevant. And then you have these Xbox supporters, these Xbox fanboys, trying to come up with some kind of viable excuse as to why you should go out and buy an Xbox over a PlayStation. And they want to try and justify their decision to support Xbox over PlayStation. And so their argument is Xbox Game Pass. And sure, if you look at Xbox Game Pass and what they're offering through that subscription-based service, it sounds like it's a really good deal. Probably for people who are casual gamers, though. That's what that service is more than likely aimed at, because if you look at the list of games that's in Xbox Game Pass, they're all old. They're all old games that either came out on Xbox 360 or Xbox One. So odds are, if you take video games seriously, you've more than likely already played the major titles that's included in Xbox Game Pass, which makes Xbox Game Pass irrelevant. All of these games that I'm scrolling through right now are old. They're old games. So yes, according to Xbox supporters, it makes perfect sense to go out and spend $500 on a video game console just to pay for a subscription that includes a bunch of games that are years and years old. Even some of the newer ones that have come out within the last 3 or so years. More than likely, you've already played them. Speaking for myself personally, because I'm a PC gamer, and because I've amassed a library of almost 200 games strong on Steam, most of the big games that are listed here, I already own on Steam. Or I already own on console, or both. I don't need Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass is not a reason to go out and spend money on an Xbox Series X. But this is how I know that Microsoft is desperate. This right here. Xbox All Access. So what is Xbox All Access? Xbox All Access, from what I understand of it, is based on credit. It's a credit-based subscription, basically, where you pay a low monthly fee, cheap monthly fee, and they will send you an Xbox Series X or an Xbox Series S with 24 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and you basically pay off the new console over time. Now, on paper it sounds great, and I think it's going to work out pretty well for them. For the Xbox Series X in particular, you only have to pay $35 a month for 24 months. No upfront cost, zero APR. For the Xbox Series S, $25 a month. And I'll even go as far as to say this is how pricing for new video game consoles should work. $500 for a video game console is ridiculous, especially if you look at the launch lineup for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. $500 to play a bunch of games that you probably already own a console to have access to doesn't make much sense at all. So Xbox All Access, to some degree, is a good deal. But when you look at what Microsoft actually has in terms of their exclusives right now, and if you look at where they're at right now as both a publisher, a games publisher, and a console manufacturer, they're not offering anything better over Sony. And the only reason they're being as pro-consumer as they are right now is because of how badly they fucked up with the Xbox One. Let's say Xbox is able to turn a new leaf this generation, and they are somehow able to get people who are pro-PlayStation to jump ship over to the Xbox, over to their side. Let's say Microsoft is able to do that. How long is it going to take before they start reverting back to the anti-consumer practices, which is what Sony is at right now? Sony's starting to take their fans for granted because they are lagging behind Microsoft when it comes to backwards compatibility, when it comes to customer support. They haven't improved whatsoever. But Sony knows they can get away with these things because they have the supporters. They have the install base. Microsoft has an install base, but it's nowhere near the size of PlayStation. But the main thing for me is that all of their first-party exclusives is going to be available on PC. I already have a gaming PC. So if I want to buy any of their games, be it Halo Infinite or future Bethesda titles, which may be exclusive to Xbox, I'll just buy them on PC. After the disaster that was the Xbox One, I'm not supporting Xbox anymore. The offerings with the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S is extremely weak. It's entirely dependent on backwards compatibility because they do not have any worthwhile exclusives to compete against Sony. That's just fact. And some Xbox fans out there will try and argue, yeah, well, I don't care about Sony exclusives. It's like, that's perfectly fine you don't care about Sony exclusives. The fact of the matter remains that Xbox does not have the exclusives to compete with Sony. Therefore, I'm not going to support Xbox next generation. I may buy one or two of their exclusives on PC, but that's as far as my support will go. The glory days of the Xbox is long in the past. Will they be able to turn it around? Maybe. But it's going to take a lot more than buying a big publisher like Bethesda to right the ship.